Hey all, I just want to quick do a week 5 video for you. I'm posting this Sunday because I know some of you use your weekends to go ahead and jump ahead a little bit. So I know that some of you are still taking the exam, and feel free to just watch this on Monday or Tuesday when you can. But again, I know that you all have varied work schedules, and some of you really rely on these weekends to just jump back right in to the next material. And again, unfortunately, with these fast track courses, they are just kind of unforgiving in terms of once you take an exam, it's jumping right into the next one. But on the plus side of things, you got to keep in mind you're halfway through this course already. So again, you guys are doing a great job. Hang in there with me. You only have 4 weeks to go, just 4 weeks to go. You can do this, right? So that's my pep talk for you. Okay, so I'm going to jump right into this because again, I know you're pressed for time. So I want to go ahead and show you what you're going to be doing for lecture this week, and then give you some hints with that lecture. And then I'm also going to jump into the next set of labs. This will be a little bit longer introduction because, like the bone labs, the muscle labs are going to be all on one page. So I want to show you all your resources and kind of get you started on the right foot there. So with exam 3 here, this is mostly going to be muscles. So the muscle tissue and muscles at the cellular level, and then muscle physiology. And then we're going to get into the muscular system. At the very end, we'll get into nervous tissue next week, and then we have the next exam. So really quickly, for the first set of lectures here, this is going to be on muscle tissue and muscle cells, and then muscle physiology. So this is a really important series of lectures. Please watch these videos and then take notes if you can in the margins. They are really helpful. And then I have the review questions here. For this set of lectures, you are going to get into the nitty-gritties of muscle physiology, muscle contraction, and that step-by-step process for muscle contraction and sliding filament theory. My suggestion for you for learning this process, the step-by-step process for muscle contraction and sliding filament theory, is to write this out on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, draw out the process. You can even use the diagrams so I have one where it has, diagram images in a circle for muscle contraction. And then you can write down the important points that you need. So if you want to print that out, write down the important points that you need for that step-by-step process. And then what I want you to do is I want you to take that and put it on your mirror. Okay. And the reason that I suggest that you do this is how I learned the citric acid cycle when I was taking biochemistry in grad school, and I just didn't have a lot of free time. And so one of my instructors recommended this, and I think it's great advice because hopefully you brush your teeth twice a day. So that is 2 times every day that you can go through that step-by-step process for muscle contraction, the physiology behind muscle contraction. And that's usually a hard process for students to learn. There will be questions on the exam that are going to ask you about that step-by-step process, and you are going to need to know the order. So please make sure that you do that, or you can make some note cards. But again, I think for some of these processes, twice a day when you're brushing your teeth for 2 weeks, you're going to be going through that, and make yourself go through it while you're brushing your teeth. What a great use of time, right? Like while you're brushing your teeth. So again, I think that's a great way to get that material down. Also for neuromuscular junction. So again, when you talk about the initial nerve innervation to that muscle, and what must happen to transfer that message from the nerve to the muscle. And it gets into that even at the cellular level of what's happening, what's being released at the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and how that calcium that's released then ultimately stimulates the process of muscle contraction. So very important that you know that step-by-step process for neuromuscular junction. So that's another one. Put it on a second piece of paper, put it up there on your mirror while you're brushing your teeth, okay? Those are my big suggestions. Now there's going to be a lot of new terminology here. So, any of the proteins involved in sliding filament theory and muscle contraction. Maybe make some note cards of those. Oh, I also wanted to tell you, make sure that you take note of what a motor unit is and then what motor recruitment is. Then we get into, after that, of talking about motor unit recruitment. We talk about wave summation. We talk about tetanus, complete and incomplete. So make sure that you're kind of going through those. And let's see, I just had a couple things that I wanted to make sure that you focused on. Yeah, know the difference between isotonic versus isometric contraction. So you can make yourself, again, a note card of that. My dog's moving my slide here in the background, so sorry about that. But if you wonder, there's not a ghost in my room. Unfortunately, I have a very giant dog in here. And so anyway, and then make sure you know those types of skeletal muscle fibers, the slow oxidative, fast twitch A, fast twitch B. So anyway, again, that's not a comprehensive, again, by means list of the things that you need to know, but that's right here. Muscle tissue review questions. Go through those, and any of those, major terms that you need to know. If you're struggling with them, make some note cards. Okay. So that'll get you through that. Then you're going to move on to, trying to be quick here for you, muscular system. So when you get into the muscular system here, this lecture you'll find isn't quite as in-depth as the last lecture. It does have, again, some important muscle physiology here with introducing things like first, second, and third class levers. Make sure that when you get to that you can identify where the fulcrum, effort, and load is in each one. You may want to draw it out on note card. And then I want you to make sure that you understand with each of those levers what that lever is known for. So is it putting out a lot of force? Or is it not putting out a lot of force, but it's a speed lever? Or is it really important for increasing range of motion? So again, make sure that you understand that with each of those different types of levers. And so, lastly, for this lecture, at the very end of it, it's going to be pictures of all of the different muscles that you have to know in the body, or many of them that you have to know in the body. That's going to be for lab. I just happened to post it because they had some great pictures, and I thought that might be helpful for some of you from the actual Mariab textbook. But again, you don't have to, I'm not going to double hit you on the exam and the practical. The practical is where you have to be able to identify what is this muscle, and what is its origin, insertion, action. For the exam, I might ask you to, know the vocabulary term origin and its meaning, or what's the meaning of insertion, okay? So just to give you a hint, as you're looking at that PowerPoint, please keep in mind. And again, it's always a good idea to look at those review questions, because that gives you an idea of what you need to know for the exam. But I just didn't want you to see that PowerPoint, look at it and see how long it was and freak out. A lot of the end of that PowerPoint is images for lab. Okay, so speaking of lab, let's jump into the lab materials for the week, and I want to let you know what you need to know for lab as quickly as I can here without, again, taking too much of your time. Here's practical 3. You're going to see that it's going to look a lot like that page for practical 2 for the bones. It's all on one single page for you because, again, the practical is muscles. That's it. That's what the practical is. Now, I say that, and it sounds very simple, but for each of the muscles, you need to know the origins of those muscles, the insertion, at least 2, and the action for that muscle, okay? So, for example, where you should start. You're like, where should I start in all this process? For this week, we're doing head, neck, and torso, and then the arm, which is the upper appendicular muscles. So let's look at head, neck, and torso. The first thing you're going to want to do is either print this guide out or download this guide onto your computer so that you have it. This is your starting point. This would be your lab book information, the lab book material to present the muscles to you that you're going to have to know for the practical. So you're going to see, and the nice part is this is actually actually better than the guide that we had in our lab book, because we actually have pictures of each of the models and then an arrow to that muscle group. So here you can see, like, the name of the muscle is orbicularis oris, or I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the, this is orbicularis oris here, orbicularis oculi, okay? So you can guess that orbicularis means that this is, again, a muscle in kind of that circular format. It's orbiting, okay, around something. So that's why there's orbicularis oculi, orbicularis oris. Again, those are just a couple little tricks to the trade. They bring those up in the videos. So again, or they also have the name meaning here. So that's always helpful. And then they give the origin, the insertion, and then an action, okay? So for each of the muscles, you're going to see that, okay? There's your orbicularis oris. So there's orbicularis oculi, which is kind of nice again. Oculi, you associate with the eye. Oris, you associate with the mouth. But you can see it's going to go through each of these muscles. And my big hint to you with this is, first, learn to identify the muscle, where it is, and the name of the muscle, okay? After that, then you're going to get into the origin and insertion. So for example, let's talk about this muscle, the sternocleidomastoid here. This one's a nice one because it actually has a name that is associated with the origin and insertions. So this is one that I always love. So if you look here, sterno is referring to the sternum, so the manubrium of the sternum here. So that's going to be one of the origins. The other one, cleido, is referring to the clavicle. So sternocleido, manubrium of the sternum, and the clavicle is the origin for this muscle. So put your thumb there. That's the origin, okay? Then put your pointed finger here on the insertion, which is the mastoid process of the temporal bone, which you should be able to palpate, okay? So now, okay, if you can see, now I know the origin and insertion of my muscle. So now all I have to do is picture, what's this muscle going to do when it contracts, when it tightens? And this is exactly what it's going to do as it tightens, right? And so if you do this action yourself, now it's easy to picture what the action is going to be. Here it's going to rotate the head to the opposite side, right? It's also going to be flexing the head because it's going to be pulling your chin down, so flexing the head. And then this one's kind of a harder action, so again, you can pick which action you want to know, but elevates sternum and ribs, again, is kind of like a lesser action for that muscle. So I think, again, it's easiest if you memorize first the muscle and where it's at, okay? Then after you do that, go on to the origin and insertion, and then hopefully you don't have to memorize the actions, because if you know the origin and insertions, a lot of times you can figure out the action. And you're welcome to do this on practical. Put your hands where that muscle is and try to picture, okay, if it contracts, what's it going to do? It's going to pull these 2 points closer to each other, okay? So, okay, it's going to rotate the head to the opposite side. This is just an easy way to help decrease the amount of information that you have to memorize, okay? So where do you go after you've initially looked at and gone through these different muscles? Oh, and here, if you need to review the anatomical actions for the muscle lab, you can do that here. So I'm not going to pull that YouTube video up because it'll take a while to load. It is an older video. Please don't laugh. It was back when I was pregnant. So, and I did it in an office. I did my best to try to do those actions for you. So as you go through those actions of those muscles, do them yourself. Stand up and do those actions yourself, because I try to give you little tricks to the trade on how to remember some of these actions. For example, a lot of people have trouble with, so talking about abduction. So I call it abduction. So like you're abducting your arm away from the body. So that's why I like to tell you, think about abduction as abducting your limb away from the body. Once you've abducted it, then you have to add it back in. So adduction is adding that arm back in, okay? So I like to use abduction, adduction. There's also some other easy things in that video like supination. So again, supination is like you're forming a bowl of soup. and then pronation's the opposite. So again, it has all kinds of neat little tricks to the trade in it. So make sure that if you need to review those muscles there. It's not a long video. Then I do have some nice labeling exercises for you. These are great because they are actually labeling things on the actual models. So hopefully that will help you to visualize these muscles on the models a little bit. Once you've gotten through these, I should have answer keys to each of those, but for some reason I see they didn't all transfer over for some reason. So I will make sure that I post those answer keys for you. I see some of them there, answer keys, and some of them aren't. But I'll make sure I have all those answer keys for you. I recommend that you take a quick few minutes and watch the videos that Dr. Pam Harrison's put together for you. I didn't put together new videos myself because she did a great job with these videos. And it's really just introducing the names of the muscles is most important so that, again, you hear them and can pronounce them correctly. I think that really helps you to remember them. So once you've done that, then you can go through and use some of these Sketchfab 3D models if you can't get to the study lab. So if you can get to the study lab and get your hands on those models, great, more power to you. But if you can't use these Sketchfab models, again, you can manipulate things. You can expand this as well. And we have the muscles labeled for you on there, okay? So, but of course you can expand them out and rotate them, manipulate them. I think they're really, really handy. Then, of course, we have lots of practice material. For those of you that aren't super big on the some of the Sketchfab stuff, these ones are actually, or I'm sorry, not Sketchfab, oh, what are they? What's it called? I'm blanking on the a soft chalk. I couldn't think of the name for a second. Soft chalk. So these soft chalk exercises I think are great. These are different than the other soft chalk exercises that you've had. You can actually rotate the pointer over the muscle and it will tell you the name of the muscle and the origin and the insertion and action. So I think that these are really handy and they're actually on pictures of the muscles that we use in the lab and for the practical. And then of course you're going to see there are lots of StudyMate flashcards. My suggestion is that you first go through these StudyMate flashcards that are just the muscles only. So you're just doing the muscle identification and then go on to the origin, insertion, and actions after that, okay? We do have some nice cadaver videos for you. And then, of course, I have the practice quizzes to help keep you on track. Keep in mind that you can take those practice quizzes at any time. There isn't technically a deadline. I just put a deadline there to give you an idea of about when you should be familiar with that material to help keep you on track for this fast track course. And then of course, we'll eventually have that muscle practice practical that will open up the week before the practical and then the practical on February 22nd and 23rd. Okay, phew, that's it. If you have any questions, again, please email me or we can set up a time to also do a Google Meet or Zoom and go over this material for you.